Call the Addison Township Park meeting to order. Time is 7:35. Starting with that, Rod Blasick attending, and Charlie Perinian, and we've got Dave to my right. So from there, if we may, Charlie, would you read the minutes from our last meeting, please?
All right, Rod. These are the minutes from our Monday, March 7th meeting, and it started at 7:30, and we all voted to approve the February agenda. We all voted to approve that agenda. We all voted to approve the February 4th meeting minutes. Approval of bills. Chuck, $94.30 for park supplies. Dave made a motion to approve the $94.30. Rod supported. Old business. Pitch pumps wells for washing and cleaning at Watershed Preserve Park. The committee agreed that a water source for inside Arnold School would be best. Grade where the house was and apply topsoil at Lake George Nature Park soon. Order Lake George Nature Park signs, similar to our Watershed Preserve signs. They are being made. Gather short informational articles by our rangers and committee members for a flyer or a newsletter. Collect articles at our next meeting. Repair dock at Slating Lake soon. Move Lake George Nature Park garage to Watershed Preserve Park versus cost to build a new pole barn. A new pole barn could cost less and be a better building. We will continue to investigate this. New business. Discuss a quarterly newsletter to be possibly sent to our park rangers to keep them current with our park committee business. Chuck read a draft informational letter which contains seasonal information, highlights from our past meetings, community service worker and park ranger workday schedules, and park ranger contact and criteria information. Rod said this also could be emailed. Identify points of interest along our trails at both our nature parks. This will be an ongoing project. We plan to make some identification markers. Vote to approve future dates and times of meetings. Everyone present received a Township of Addison 2016 through 2017 physical meeting dates and public notice form. Rod asked our park rangers how they felt about the dates and time. Discussion on whether to start our meetings at an earlier time. Everyone present preferred 7:30 was the time to remain. Rod made a motion to approve the park committee meeting dates and times as per the public notice as written. Dave supported the motion. All voted to approve. Public forum. Ranger Tom Posadlik asked if the committee would consider purchasing some pike for Slating Lake. Dave said he thought more fish were needed at Perch Pond. Rod made a motion to stock Perch Pond with minnows first and afterwards fish. Chuck supported. All agreed. Rod said he would like to get our two new light poles operating at Watershed Preserve East parking lot by June. Meeting ended at 8:25 p.m. All voted to end meeting.
Very good. All in favor to approve the minutes as read? Yeah.
Well, I wanted just to bring something up, though.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, we voted to approve our future meeting dates and times.
Oh, yes.
And there was something that we overlooked, and on the schedule that we presented, our July meeting was going to be on the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
And if we want to have our July meeting, this would be a good time to take care of that problem.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd like
And
to make a motion that we agenda the date for the July meeting to the following Monday, which
Okay.
would be the 10th or 11th, is that correct?
well, yeah, it'd be the 11th.
The 11th?
Yes.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to change the July 4th date to the 11th for our Parks and Rec meeting.
good. I'll second.
Okay, and we'll vote to
Approve.
change, okay.
Yeah,
right.
So we'll amend the minutes to say that we want our park meeting to be a July 11th. And that
Very
way our
good.
leaders will change the schedule.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, when you finish.
Well, now we need to approve them.
Oh, okay.
Make a motion.
And then I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, I'll vote yes.
All right, all part in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. When you finish with that, Charlie, if you would, if we could get you and Dave all to review and approve the agenda for this evening. Need a recommendation on that?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Very good, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right, minutes are approved. Chuck read the minutes from our last meeting already. And next would be the supervisor's report. With Township Supervisor not being present, I would like to provide just a little bit of information in his absence, if I may. And we're presently working towards getting all of the quotes together to put up a building, storage building over at Watershed East behind the schoolhouse, the Arnold Schoolhouse. It started out at 20 by 24, and I had a couple of quotes for that. However, we were requested to enlarge it slightly to 24 by 30. So with that, I'm having to get new proposals. That requires 3 proposals for the materials and hardware. So I'm having to go back through to get that completed, and I hope to have that done by next week, next meeting.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's important
Sure.
to, because we needed to, we talked since the last meeting, and we needed
Yeah.
to have it, perhaps have a discussion on that, so we know what to get quotes for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Charlie's getting a quote. I've got one. We need one more, and that'll give us the 3.
Okay.
And then we can make the decision on that. Charlie, you were going to go where for yours?
I was, actually, I was gonna try to get 2 quotes.
Oh, okay.
And I was also told by our leaders to get 1 quote from Morton Building.
Okay.
Okay, and they wanted a quote for everything, with labor and everything, they wanted
Oh,
a
really?
quote. Yes,
Okay,
they
that's
wanted a quote
different
for
then.
that.
Okay.
And then you and I both agreed, and I thought, we both thought it was a good idea for you to send me to Menards to get a quote on one.
Correct.
So I'm gonna get one from Morton Building for 1 installed, and then 1 at Menards just for the materials.
Excellent. The quote I've got, the 2 that I had originally for the 20 by 24 were from Menards. Those not being sufficient of size, I started over, so I went to Home Depot and had the one 24 by 30 quoted. So I have that one now. We're waiting for the 2 when you have the opportunity.
Okay.
And we've standardized that we would put in a 8-foot wide by 7-foot tall overhead door with a single pass door, and we're looking at 1 window, probably just for lighting, that would be put up high. With that, we'll probably just trench a circuit over to the schoolhouse to pull power in, and whether or not we put a panel in there or just a small accessory will be determined. But we'll still have power over there nonetheless.
It'll be big enough?
Yeah, that'll be plenty big, plenty big. originally, like I said, we were looking at 20 by 24, but now it going 24 by 30. That's going to be a lot of extra space in there. We're not looking at heating that. It's really just for the purposes of storage, putting the picnic tables, benches, some of the miscellaneous items that we have, and that should suffice for it.
We don't want to
So-
keep the lawn equipment in Arnold School,
Yeah.
the gasoline engines.
Right. So with that, when we put the power out there, we'll probably pull a security wire so that we can put security equipment out there to monitor the building to try and avoid vandalism and potential problems. So with that, that's the plan. That's the reason for it, for the needed storage, and we'll try and get that assembled the following for the following meeting then.
You know the answers to the couple questions I want to ask you now. One
Sure.
was, the other day we were talking about it. What's the pitch on the roof?
512.
512 pitch.
And we're looking at sheet metal roof and metal siding, so there should be zero maintenance moving forward with that. It's actually the metal roofing is less than doing conventional shingling. So it just makes
Wow.
good sense to go that route and it be perpetually near maintenance free at that point. So that's what we're looking at. So a 512 will shed all weather conditions off very well and give us plenty of storage that we've been needing at this point.
Okay, you explained it rather well, so in the minutes I'll put down everything, so we have a good description of what we're getting quotes on.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Charlie. With that, I've also picked up the mounting hardware for the 2 light poles that have been donated. We said we'd like to get that operational by July, and at this point, I still think that's doable. If we get it mounted by July, I think that will still be a significant effort. So either way, we'll get that done. I am still pricing around for a couple of the metal housings to put into the washrooms for our storage, as we said. I hope to have that all done by our next meeting. A couple of them I went and looked at, I didn't like them, so anyway, I will continue with that and have that wrapped up as well.
Here's a book that I think Assistant Supervisor Sherry gave me that I'm going to give to you.
Okay.
And this has a metal cabinets like we're talking about, and it also has fixtures for the
Oh, yeah.
outside lavatories.
Sure.
And park-related kind of items here.
Good.
And so,
Oh, thank you, Charlie. I'll review that and add that to our list of needed items to wrap up here shortly so that we can move ahead with that. As far as the supervisor's report goes, that should, conclude that report. Next item is approval of bills. I'd like to submit one from Tom's Hardware. This is for some miscellaneous items, part of which are the 8 2-foot lag bolts required for the mounts that we're gonna need to put the light poles on. What's the tubes that you drop in?
sonotubes.
Thank you. These are the mounting hardware for the sonotubes that we'll be putting in, and it's some of the other few miscellaneous items that I'd put into the sign that we'll cover in later business. So if I may, I'm going to submit a invoice for $78.76.
I'll make a motion to approve the $78.76.
Very good.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Let me write that down. 78.76 submitted. All right, I'll write a note to that, and if I may, you'll be into the township. If it's all right, I'll just copy that over to you and
It
have you
doesn't-
drop that off if you don't mind.
No, that's fine, whatever you want to do,
Okay,
yeah.
very
Once
good.
we put it in our minutes,
Yeah.
it's been approved,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, good. All right, with that, we are into old business. Well for washing and cleaning in the basement at Arnold School, Charlie?
Well, the latest is we all pretty much agreed that for what we want to do and for all the hoops we'd have to jump through to have an outside well, we're better off just having water brought into the basement of the schoolhouse for washing and cleaning. We started out wanting pitch pump wells for the outside for washing and cleaning. There's just too many regulations, and it gets to be too expensive to do it that way because it's a public park, and there's just a lot of rules and regulations, and it gets to be very expensive. So we have moved forward. Our supervisor and I talked to the well man, and he's supposed to be getting back with Supervisor Pearson with a price on what it would cost to put like a sink in the basement of Arnold School. And if we need to water something outside, we can connect the garden hose to it and run the line outside, and that takes care of the immediate problem.
So we're pending for B&B a quote on,
Yeah, we're waiting for
All
B&B for a quote.
all right. I'll put a note to follow up with Bruce. Good. The next item is grade where the former house was and apply topsoil to Lake George Nature Park. And I believe that with some of the items coming up in new business, we could probably do that all together.
I agree.
So
We have to
we'll-
wait for things to dry out the next
Yeah.
couple weeks too, because it's been so wet.
So I'll tie that to the new business item as well, if that's all right with you.
That's fine. We'll just
So-
we'll just answer that with soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good.
And I was going to mention one thing. I did go and look, and I measured the size of that. We believe it's a well that we saw where it's cemented next to the foundation of the schoolhouse, and it was the inside diameter was 6.5 inches. I went there with a couple items. I had a metal,
You mean the old house?
yeah, the old
Oh, okay.
house, the
Okay, I'm sorry,
foundation.
you said schoolhouse.
I'm sorry. And I went there with a ductwork cap for like a furnace system that
Yeah.
was galvanized, and it fit inside of it fit in the opening like a glove. It fit perfect. And we had talked to our building inspector earlier about it, and he says, well, he says, you know, you need to cover it, and you need to seal it and protect it so it doesn't get contaminated. And so the ductwork cap fits inside of it good. I felt that if I got some strong construction adhesive and put a bead around it, and perhaps maybe drilled a hole through the top of the metal pipe into that cap, or maybe two screws, that would hold it tight. And then I was going to go one step further, and I was going to get a PCV pipe cap that was one size larger, and put some construction adhesive underneath that and set that on top so it fits over the pipe and over the piece of ductwork that I put inside the pipe, and that way it's really protected. And that would put an end to it, and you know, it's a minimum expense, less
Yeah.
probably than $10 for everything.
Good.
But I asked our leaders about it, and they says, yeah, that's a good, easy way of taking care of it. And
Good,
so,
I agree. I think that would be a nice fix. You showed me the materials the other day, and if you've got the time, I'd say absolutely do
Well,
that. If
it-
you want, we can include that onto this project as well too,
It-
or
it-
however you have time to accommodate it.
It's too simple to do, and it's not
Okay.
worth the effort to write it on paper, so we'll
All
just
right.
take care of it. But
Okay.
that was something we talked about for a long time. We had to
Right.
see how our leaders wanted to handle it, and they said, well, cover it so it's secure and it's protected so nothing will happen. So later on, if we want to open it up, 20 years from now or something like that, it'll be as it was before.
Excellent. Okay. Next you had, we are looking for some short informational articles from the Rangers and committee members for some flyers on an upcoming newsletter. Has anyone put any more thought to that or any additional writing that you would care to submit in?
Well, we have two people. We got a real nice article from Marilyn L. Sorelli
Excellent.
on 12 points on trail safety that would be real nice for our newsletter flyer.
Excellent.
And we thank her. She was diligent and did hers right away. And Dave Kostick also has an article about fishing, which would be very nice. And then also, this we wrote up and scrutinized, 3-4 years ago, and this used to be in the township lobby, and it has our park logo on it, and this would be good to be in our newsletter, I think on the first page, and this. Well, I'll start off reading it, and it's Addison Township Parks and Recreation for, and this was dated July 2012. Thank you, Dave. This is Dave's article on fishing.
Very good.
And it says Addison Township is an attractive area with diverse typographical character. Our parks assist in preserving our rural atmosphere. You can experience the up north feeling in just
Thank you,
minutes
Dave.
from your home. Our community owns 4 parks which are worth visiting. And then it explains each park. It has a couple sentences on Addison Township Playground and how it's a nice little park to bring your children, to use the playground. And then it has Labode Park, which is behind the Township Hall.
And if I may add, which is being extended out too for future sledding purposes down the road. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll really fix our backs.
Yeah, well, they'll like that. And so it has Labode Park, and it's next door to the Michigan Nature Association Lakeville Swamp, and it has a baseball field and a picnic area, even though currently it's under construction. And then it has Watershed Preserve Park. It has a couple sentences on that it's 228 acres. It's high in natural features, and it's got nice trails, and it talks about camping. And then it also has Lake George Nature Park on it. So it explains all our parks. And I think that's a good way to start out. It also has which we need to update, is our committee meeting dates for our meetings. And it also says if people have any interest on getting involved in our parks, or if they want to come to our meetings, we encourage that. And it's a good way to start out a little
Absolutely.
flyer.
It is.
And
It's
so,
a very good piece.
yeah, if we get a couple more articles besides the 2 that we have,
Yep.
we'll have a nice little newsletter. I knew when we first talked about this, it was going to probably take maybe 4 or 5 meetings of just a little bit at each meeting to get everything together. Hopefully, for our May meeting, we'll be a little bit closer, where we'll have something almost close to a final draft.
Excellent.
I'll do an article on the horses.
Pardon?
I'll do an article for riding.
That'd be
horses.
great.
Okay, that would be
That would be
great.
very
Yeah,
good.
and yeah, because we're still waiting for
Wonderful.
more articles. If anyone wants to write an article, and yeah,
That'll take some research though, the moraines and things.
that would be good. And then we have a lot of fill-in stuff we can always use. It's just endless on what you could
Yeah.
write short articles
Yeah.
on. There's no end to it. And so yeah, we'd like to get 3, 4, 5 more articles from our rangers or.
I'll commit for one by next meeting too.
Okay, and then we can put a nice 2 or 3 page flyer together. And so again, this is ongoing, and we'll work on it again some more next meeting, and
Good.
that's that.
Okay. We had repair the dock at Slating Lake. The ice is off now. I believe those were, when we last measured, 2-inch tubes that we need to replace.
Yep.
With Tom's Hardware going out, those items might be on sale over there that I'll, next trip over there, I'll ask and see if we can get a
Okay.
few of those. And if that being the case, maybe we can pick up a spare, 2 or 3 for future events, because we know that that's not gonna be the end of those
Absolutely.
folding. So, I will also check to see, what we can do, there. So, I'll get quote for tubing on docks. All right. Next item was quotes for a garage to store the tractors and hardware in. We've already addressed that under the supervisor's notes.
Yep.
Then we are into new business.
Well, really, the first of our new business, really, I should have put in with old business, because we talked about it really at last meeting. And the business about identify points of interest along our trails at both our nature parks. It's something we talked about before. Ranger Carroll brought it up last summer a couple of times at park meetings, that it would be a good idea. It would be nice for our parks to give them more credibility of pointing out the things that make those parks special.
Yeah.
Certain habitat, certain animals, certain plants and trees, and we can do it a little bit at a time. I think it's something we should pick at, every meeting, every other meeting. And so when people walk down the trails, this is a barrel swamp. That's such and such a kind of tree that you don't see very many of. This is a certain kind of a plant or animal lives in this area here. Those are things that make our park special.
I agree. And there's a couple of different ways of going about that too. I've put a small amount of thought to it. Rather than having signs of aluminum painted and that type, what if we ended up getting some cedar boards, like 2x8 cedar boards, that we could drill and put a chain or a fastener through it, loop it around the branches on a tree, and with like Dremels or routers, we could route a small amount of information enough. It's going to end up being handmade. It's not going to be anything professional, but as you look at it, it's going to be informative and try to eliminate some of the metals and different things around the parks. Do you
Oh,
think
that's
something
fine.
like that would be sufficient?
So would you propose
That's fine.
something like a cedar that wouldn't be attacked by insects?
Yeah, and they weather very well. That's what most of the national parks use in their signage, and it's all, just a good way of going for something to hold up quite a while.
Small
So,
cedar boards.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'll
that's
pick
fine.
up a few boards of cedar and I'll try some of that with the Dremels to see how it comes out. If
That's
you're
fine.
all right with it,
Yeah, that's
we'll
fine.
pick a few pieces to start working at.
No, that's a good idea.
Is that
That's
all
fine.
right?
Yeah, we don't want stuff to just stick out at you.
Yeah.
We got enough trail signs and this and
Yeah.
that, and we don't want to put any more signs in there than we have to.
Good. All right. Next, we're talking about complete and install the entrance sign at Lake George Nature Park. This last couple of weeks, I've been working on a sign. It's going to be a large sign. It's going to be a full 4x8 sheet of plywood. I'm going to need a hand moving that around. Now that I've got it built, it's too heavy for one old fat man to move around. So I figured that maybe I could get Dave and Charlie to give me a hand. I'll put it on the trailer, and what we could do then is just run it over and put it in the over in the garage in the barn there, and until we're ready to set it. At which time
That's a good idea.
we can look at We were talking about the topsoil on the grass where the old house was at. If we go to set that sign, we can pick a weekend and we can have some topsoil brought over in advance. So now we could drop the sign in, do some of the topsoils and try to knock 2 of those events down with 1 trip. Do it on a work day and get some of that cleaned up, and then we can look at some of the other needs that are there at Lake George. Do you think that might be all right?
Be great.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Okay. Well then,
That's something just couple rangers could do,
Yeah.
and a few of us
Yeah.
3 and a couple rangers. We
Yeah.
don't need the WAM people for that quite
right,
now.
right.
Maybe
But that-
fine tune, we could use the WAM people with rakes, stuff like that.
We were able to reset the slating, or the park off of Rochester. We were able to set that sign with rangers and the board
Yeah.
members with the
Yeah.
help with your tractor, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
So-
we're gonna need the tractor again. This one's a lot heavier. It's all 3/4 inch sheeting
That's-
and
yeah.
it's made to last, so.
So we're gonna dig 2 holes, we're gonna put 4x4s
Yeah.
in again, and
Yeah.
set it in concrete.
Concrete, I'll probably get some bags of quick mix or something like that we can throw around the base of it.
Right.
And I don't see a need to put in those sonic tubes, but if I backhoe the hole, I think we can put some bags around there and some boulders that should hold that very well. And
I don't know if there's too many boulders though around.
I
the-
didn't see
I
a
didn't
whole
see
lot
any
over
either,
there.
no.
Okay.
No.
Well, when I come over,
We won't
maybe I'll
worry
bring
about
some
that.
in the bucket, or I can throw some in the trailer when we drop the sign off and utilize those going forward. So, if you guys have a chance, maybe,
Well, you let us know,
I'll
and we'll
let
be
you know.
around to help you.
all right,
You call
we'll
us.
plan on probably, if you're available, maybe try to do something Saturday coming to get
Over
that
the weekend, that's
loaded and
fine.
moved it
Sure.
over. It won't take us that long to do it, it's just
No.
getting together to do it. So, with that, we'll address the Lake George Nature Park with the sign, and we'll set that up for a date. Do we
There's-
need to
there's
set a
something
date
else-
for that right now to try and make a commitment? What's
No,
our,
I was just gonna say, you call us up, you're busy, you call us up, if you wanna do it Saturday, Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
over the weekend. Hopefully Dave will be free, I can be free.
Sure.
And we can go help you do that, and like you said, that's a good idea, just either put it in the garage or in the
Yeah.
barn and lock it up.
yeah,
And then we can deal with it at a later date.
exactly.
And maybe while we're at it, there's some mattresses that we got, willed, and they're leaning against the side of the vaulted restroom at the Haven Road entrance.
Yeah, I
parking
can pick
lot.
those up
Could-
at the same time.
we pick
and-
them up
yeah,
maybe?
So
Absolutely.
someone inadvertently dropped those off for our
Yeah.
pleasure,
Yeah,
for our
they-
sleeping pleasure?
They probably
Yeah.
slipped off of someone's truck passing through.
Okay. Oops.
So what kind of activities going on up there?
Well, and that's one of the items that I made a note on too, is with the season changing, we're getting a lot more traffic into the parks and people are enjoying them, which is a good thing. With that comes some unpleasant issues. You can see more vandalism, damage, and I guess that's the frustration, right? But I'd like to look at what we're going to be doing again this year for our next meeting, perhaps get commitment from the park rangers on tours and watches and get that schedule reset for this year.
Yes, well, I thought we had okay, we skipped the, you know what, maybe it's not on our agenda. We sent our rangers, informational letter.
Yeah.
And in the informational letter that I sent our
This
park
is it here,
rangers.
Charlie.
Yeah,
On March 14th.
yeah. And we're gonna try to send a informational letter out every quarter, and that way we tell the rangers what we've been working on and what we plan to do. And when the WAM people are gonna be around with us, and so if they have the day off and they can help us, they know way in advance. And also it had ranger criteria business in there too. If someone
Yes.
needs first aid certification, then they know what to do. It has contact information. It has the other rangers' names and addresses, and it also has the park addresses and the sheriff. And
That
And so-
was a real good summary and follow-up on that, Charlie. And I think that it's very helpful. And the last piece it'll do is help us get together a schedule of all the volunteers and park rangers to do the tours through the different parks for the coming season. With this now being into April, I'd like to have that, if possible, by our May meeting.
Yeah,
And-
well, I did put in this letter that in May, we were gonna make a list of the rangers watching Watershed Preserve Park.
Yes.
And another list of the rangers watching Lake George Nature Park. And I told them to please start thinking about when they can be available to watch our parks.
Good.
And so, yeah, we
So.
got them thinking.
All right, so then maybe by next month, we can start the calendar, and
list,
if we
yeah.
need to add to it, we can
Yeah.
do that, but at least that way, we'll have it in hand to start working forward with the patrols and such, of those parks. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, one of the things that was brought up, Charlie's got a new item on the list for us as well, is to inspect and clear the trails at both parks for wind and storm damage. And we'll use the tractor and hand tools to clear those out. There's a large fall on one of the trails on Watershed East, and I'll be working on that within the next couple of weeks. Maybe if we've got a little extra time Saturday with that, maybe the three of us could have a look at that, and if there's any
Sure.
park rangers that would like to volunteer for that, let us know. Saturday coming, we should be able to knock that big log out. That's a large tree there. It's probably 24 inches in
Wow.
diameter. So just a chainsaw and the one cut and the tractor, we should be able to move that out of the way and have that area opened up.
Yeah, well, again, the goal is just to get the trail clear, yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay.
Then,
Well, it's Thursday, I'm gonna have the community service people at Watershed Preserve Park.
yes.
And we're gonna spend some time and I'd like to go through all the trails thoroughly and do as much as I can. And so I'll see what happens with the weather and everything. We also, we're gonna work on cleaning up the basement at Arnold School, get the picnic tables out of the basement, and I was gonna bring a shop vac and clean it up in there, because it's quite dirty down there, and perhaps even start on the next item.
Yeah, very good. If you can get that basement done, that'll be a huge step just in itself there,
Yeah.
that cleanup, because it's
Yeah.
getting, over the winter, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, it looks pretty
Rake
rough.
Rake the gravel back in the parking lot from
Yeah.
plowing the snow. There's lots to do. It's never ending.
One of the big things is that I really want to try to get started up is make certain that we're doing these tours. We have commitments from all the park rangers to help out. We're seeing more reasons to be concerned, and I think the more that we can get the tours out there and wrap all of these together, it'll be a very big help. So just trying to avoid damage and vandalism and make sure people are enjoying the parks the way they should be. With that, Charlie, you had mentioned the cleaning of the school basement and painting the beams and logs, trying to stop that deterioration of the insects and clean that basement up. You
Well, the
need-
original foundation is underneath the floor, and they're old pine logs from back around 1850 that were hand cut, and they were the foundation of the building. And the building just used to just sit on a dirt and stone foundation. Now it's a ceiling to the basement at Arnold School, and there's heat in there. These pine beams have dried out, and where the bark is flaking off of them, and they're turning to powder and sawdust, and deteriorating rather quickly and making a big mess. And I had some construction people look at it, and they told me that they need to be wire brushed and varnished to seal them up, so they'll stop doing that. And Rod told me it also could be there's bugs inside the pine logs,
Yeah.
and they're eating them and turning it to sawdust. So we're gonna seal up the beams.
There's not a worry on the integrity of the beams, because new floor joists were all nailed up alongside the old floor joists
Yeah.
that are being deteriorated. But for the purpose of the basement, that basement is a very clean environment. The floor, Charlie has epoxied the floors, and all the walls are painted. It's very nice and clean, so to have all that mess falling down is quite distracting. So we'll get that cleaned up and put that to rest then, Charlie.
Yeah, it was very nice last summer, but
Yes.
again, the beams are deteriorating, and they're just there for aesthetics, because you look up and you see them, they're hand carved with cut out with an axe and everything, and hand saws, and they were left there so you could see the original construction, so we can save them.
Okay, ready? Looks like we are into public forum.
Got a couple questions.
Sure.
Because I wasn't here, so this might have been covered. How's the oxygen level, do you think, lasted last year in the perch pond? Do we need to put more barley in there? Did you think that helped or not helped, or?
Okay, so Rod and Chuck have made me the point person for the perch pond. Was out to inspect the perch pond just to see if there was any aquatic casualties in the pond after ice was out about a week or so ago. And I'm happy to report that there were no casualties that I could see, unlike 2 or 3 years ago when there were several dead different species of fish along the banks. So the fish fared well. One of the things that was brought up in public forum last month was the need to go ahead and restock again. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I've already called Imlay City Fisheries, and they have Addison Township's tax ID on file, and they have our order on file from the last time we stocked. And come mid-April, early May, they're going to contact me and let me know when they have the fish and when they're going to drop them off.
Do you think we need to put more liquid barley in there?
I don't think it's going to be necessary.
Okay. And then I was wondering about the water being in the basement. I thought the whole idea of having water was so as we were walking the trails or hauling trash and going back, we could rinse our hands off.
Well, we still would rather prefer that, but when you have a public park, the regulations to having water supply are rather stringent. It's quite a permit process. The fees are rather expensive. We would rather have simple pitch pump wells with a sign on them saying not potable water, don't drink the water, it's just for washing and cleaning. But that's not good enough these days, especially with everything that's gone on. And
We were going to try to pipe some water in from Flint, and that didn't work well either.
no, that's really what we wanted, Carol, truly.
Actually,
But
the water from Flint wasn't bad, going to Flint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Flint was bad. Then I had another question with the identification markers. Another possibility, just numbered, like a log with a number in it, and you have a piece of paper map that says what that number represents. That's just another idea.
Mhm.
yeah, that's a good idea.
I've seen
We-
that one over at, Hadley Recreation, I think they had it.
Oh, yeah, okay, kind of like a search group, and then review all of your findings then.
No, they just had a log numbered, and then you had a map that said, okay, that's White Pine Tree.
Oh, okay, all right, very good.
That's just
That
another
would- yeah.
possibility.
That would be much easier than writing out a full
But
script
when you
on
start
those
doing
boards.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot of work.
Yeah, well, I'll start experimenting around with some of that, and we'll see, but that's a good alternative, Carol, and I'll make note on that
Well,
as
you're
well,
describing
too.
moraines and
Yeah.
ice pot lakes and things like that.
Speaking of signs, we didn't talk about it this meeting, but the last 3 or 4 meetings we talked about it. The Lake George Nature Park perimeter signs, which are going to be similar to the Watershed Preserve outside perimeter signs that just say the name of the park with the park logo. Supervisor Bruce has got those further along. He had some aluminum backings made for the signs, I believe about a dozen of them. And he has someone else that was going to do the vinyl graphics for him. And so very soon we should have those. And again, they'll just say Lake George Nature Park in white and with the park logo like Watershed Preserve has with a dark green background. Those would be very nice. And we're going to take
Excellent.
down the Oakland Land Conservancy signs.
Excellent. Oh, there's one other note, and I apologize. It just came to mind. The township, on the board's recommendation, had a local citizen that owned about 3 acres over on Havens Road, and it was bordering the park, the Havens Road Park, on the south side. That citizen ended up making a very generous donation to the township that we acquired that small parcel from him at a very reduced rate. So we ended up eliminating a privately held piece of land tract now added onto the Havens Road Park for purposes of maintaining that area as a park environment. The property was really too small and too wet for him to try and build a house in there, so it comes over to the park, and it's a very nice piece, a couple of acres to add into that section. So I don't have the gentleman's name. I'd like to mention it, but unfortunately I don't have it this trip. Next meeting I'll have it and give recognition to him for that generous donation as well.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it was. Any other public forum? No?
I like
Michelle?
the idea of the numbers and then a sheet, because it's less subject to vandalism.
Yeah,
Like if you go to Old Patrol and make a nice sign with all this explanation,
Yeah.
it just takes one knife for
yeah.
some, I don't know, noon person to
That's-
mess it up.
Magic marker.
That's a really good point. And on top of that, we can have multiple locations with that number assigned, like you said, a white pine, number 14. Now we just put 14 at multiple tree locations we want to identify as old growth, and that would be a much smaller sign and not near the work to maintain going forward. Good point, Michelle.
It's something, we already have numbers up there, maybe we could use letters.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
you know, there's those location numbers.
right, right.
That might get confusing. It'd be probably good
Yeah.
to switch it over to alpha. I would agree with that.
I think that's a very good idea.
Thank you, Carol
And Michelle,
and Michelle.
good points. I'm looking forward personally to see you folks out there with your horses again this year. I've kind of missed seeing you out there on those. That's really a nice visual for the people coming through the park, as well as your effort to patrol the parks. So thank you for that, and looking forward to seeing them again. Any other public forum? No? All right, well, with that, then I would entertain.
Are the swans back yet?
Yes.
Yes, they are. The trumpeters are back there, and there's a pair of them this year early on. There was a male that was out there last year. Early into the spring, there were a pair and a single male. The pair moved out, the male stayed for the summer, and it looks like there's a female that's staying with him right now. And I expect that they're probably,
How was that? Okay.
yeah, I think he found an interested lady.
Spring is here.
So those trumpeters, I'm hoping, will be mating up there on Howard or Slating Lake.
Anybody want a rooster? I'm getting rid of him.
What do you, Road Red?
He's gonna go in a pot.
Okay, all right,
Unreasonable.
well, that happens. All right, no more public forum, we're to the point of adjournment. May I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Approximately 8:30.
Very good.